The throne was always empty, not because no one deserved it, but because the men who deserved it understood the terrible truth. No one was ever going to crown them. No army, no father, no God, no friend. The crown was always meant to be lifted by the only hand that could ever truly hold it, yours. And for years, you waited. You waited for permission. You waited for validation. They never came. They were never going to come.
Look at Caesar crossing the Rubicon. Look at Marcus Aurelius riding by candlelight while plague swept his cities. Not one of them was crowned by consensus. Each of them seized the throne in absolute solitude, in a moment when no one was watching, no one was supporting, no one was promising rescue. They reached for the crown because they understood the brutal mathematics of sovereignty. The crown is heavy because the only neck strong enough to wear it is the neck of the man who lifted it himself. You have spent your life waiting for an external coronation that was never going to arrive. You waited for the father who would tell you that you were enough. You waited for the partner who would finally see you. You waited for the moment when the world would pause, turn its attention to you, and pronounce, "You are now allowed." That moment does not exist. It has never existed. It is the most expensive fantasy ever sold to the human mind, and the price you paid for it was every year you spent small. The Apex Orphan now stands at the foot of the final throne. He has buried the rescuer. He has weaponized his solitude. He has burned the bridges to his past self. And now, in this final chamber, he understands the one truth that all the previous chapters were preparing him to accept. He is alone. Not lonely, alone. And in that absolute solitude, he discovers the only freedom that has ever existed. The freedom to crown himself, because no one else was ever going to do it for him. The throne is empty. The crown is heavy. The kingdom is yours. Trust is the most expensive fiction the soft world ever sold to the human mind. It is the IOU you write to other people, with your future as the collateral. And the universe is the cosmic accountant that has never balanced the ledger in your favor. Trust is not a virtue. Trust is a wound waiting to be opened. Every emperor who ever fell because he trusted. Caesar trusted Brutus. Caesar died. The lesson is older than the empire it killed, and yet every soft generation is taught to ignore it. Understand the distinction with absolute clarity. The Apex Orphan does not become paranoid. Paranoia is a slave's emotion. The Apex Orphan becomes simply, surgically, brutally clear-eyed. He observes, he measures, he calculates. He has buried the romantic notion that trust is something you give. Trust is something you allow only after a long and unforgiving audit. You do not trust people. You evaluate their consistent behavior across enough time to predict their next move. There is a difference. The difference is the line between a king and a corpse. You will need no one. This is not an aspiration. This is the verdict of every man who has ever ascended. Need is the lever by which the world controls you. Show the world what you need, and the world will set the price. Show the world that you need nothing, and the world will offer you everything. The man who can walk away from any deal is the only man with the leverage to write the terms.
This is the second law of the Empire of One. You trust no one, and you need no one. Not because you have hardened your heart, but because you have finally understood the brutal generosity of these disciplines. They free everyone you encounter from the unbearable weight of being your savior. They allow every relationship to be a gift instead of a contract. The man who needs nothing is the only man who can love without poisoning the love with demand. The Empire of One is not the empire of isolation. It is the empire of clean exchange.
This is the final chamber. The architecture is complete. The bridges are burned. The corpse of yesterday is buried. The new man is walking. The throne is built. And now, the Apex Orphan performs the coronation that no one else was ever going to perform for him. He lifts the iron crown forged from the broken weapons of every battle he won in silence. He places it on his own skull with hands that no longer tremble. The Shadow Empire is complete. The coronation is not a celebration. It is a verdict. It is the moment when a man, having walked through the funeral of his illusions, finally accepts the terrible weight of his own sovereignty. There is no fanfare. There is no audience. There is only the silence of a chamber built by the man himself, and the absolute knowledge that from this moment forward, the king of that kingdom answers to no one.
You will leave the chamber. You will descend, alone, back into the world of men who have not climbed. They will see no difference. They will see no crown. They will see no throne. They will not understand that the man who has returned from the chamber is not the man who entered it. They will continue to address you by the old name. They will continue to ask you to perform the old self. And you, having been crowned in absolute solitude, will respond with the only language that matters now. The language of a man who has nothing left to prove, because the verdict has already been rendered in a court that no one else can attend.
The empire of one will be misunderstood. It will be called arrogance. It will be called isolation. It will be called narcissism by people who have never sat alone with their own death, who have never built anything in the dark without applause. Their misunderstanding is the price of admission. Pay it without resentment. They are speaking from a country you have left, in a language you have forgotten, about a man who no longer exists. And then, having descended, having endured the noise of the herd, you will return to the chamber each morning. You will renew the coronation. You will repeat the discipline. The empire of one is not a destination. It is a daily practice. The man who built it must continue to build it, or it will be reclaimed by the same softness that surrounds every other man who once tried to ascend and gave up. You will not give up. You have walked too far. You have buried too many old selves. The throne is yours, and the only force that can remove you from it is your own decision to abandon it. So this is the final assignment, Apex Orphan. Tonight, before you sleep, you will perform the coronation. You will sit in absolute silence. You will close your eyes. You will visualize the iron crown, forged from the broken weapons of every battle you have ever fought in the dark. You will lift it, you will place it on your own skull, and you will pronounce, internally, with cold conviction, I am the king of this empire. I have been crowned by the only hand that ever had the right to crown me. The throne is mine, the kingdom is mine, the verdict is mine. The bridges are burned behind you. The funeral is finished. The slave's religion is dead. The new man is walking. The throne is occupied. The crown is worn. The empire is yours. And the only person who could ever have given you any of it was the man who finally sat down, alone, in a chamber no one else could enter, and decided that the waiting was over. That man is you. That man has always been you. The Shadow Empire was a mirror, held up long enough that you could finally see the king beneath every layer of softness you ever inherited. This was the finale of the Shadow Empire. 10 chapters, 1 architecture, 1 verdict. The construction is complete. The Empire of One is yours. Subscribe if you intend to walk the path again from the beginning, because the path is walked many times in a lifetime, and each walk reveals what the previous walks could not. The Shadow Empire will remain, in its complete form, as a permanent monolith for any man who is ready to perform the funeral, burn the bridges, and ascend the throne.
The next architecture begins soon. But tonight, sit in the chamber, wear the crown. The empire is finished. And you, Apex Orphan, are the empire.